Over the last couple weeks, we've been talking about relationships. Today I'm going to be talking about how our attitudes can affect our relationships. Our attitudes are very important. Your attitude can make or break you, make you friends or make you enemies, and it can make you happy or make you miserable. I'd like to share a story of this one grandpa who had a bad attitude, and that affected a lot in his life. Some people think that the world stinks. Once, a cranky grandpa laid down to take a nap. To have a little fun, his grandson put some Limburger cheese on his mustache, right under his nose. The grandpa awoke with a snort, staggered out of the bedroom and shouted, "This room stinks!" On through the house he went, shouting louder, "This whole house stinks!" He charged out on the porch and shouted as loud as he could, "The whole world stinks!" The truth is, it was the grandpa who stunk. The problem was right under his nose. 9 times out of 10, we begin to feel like things in life stink. The problem is not with the world or with others, but with ourselves. The problem is that we have bad attitudes. We need to realize that our attitudes reveal the real us. Our attitudes are more important than anything else. We need to understand that our attitudes are deeper than just a few thoughts. Our attitude comes out of our core. Our attitude represents our very character. We see in Proverbs 23, verse 7, "For as a man thinks in his heart, so he is." We see in Matthew 15, verses 17 through 20, that our attitudes always become actions or reactions. Do you not yet understand that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and is eliminated? But those things which proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and they defile a man. For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, and blasphemies. These are the things which defile a man, but to eat with unwashed hands does not defile a man. Let's use the example of a jack-in-the-box. The attitudes inside us are like a jack-in-the-box. We turn the little handle, and when we least expect it, he pops out. When we least expect it, our attitudes pop out, and this causes others to determine how they think of us. We need to understand that we don't have an attitude just because we have a bad day. The reason we have a bad attitude is because we have a bad attitude inside us. We need to realize that our attitude determines the success or failure of every relationship in our lives. And some relationships will never get started if we have a bad attitude. Our attitude affects our marriage relationships, relationships with our kids, relationships at work, at church, and relationships with our friends. The thing that makes a bad attitude so destructive is that eventually it'll turn to negative actions and destructive words. In Numbers 12, verses 1 through 11, we read, "Then Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. So they said, 'Has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us also?' And the Lord heard it. Now the man Moses was very humble, more than all men who are on the face of the earth. Suddenly the Lord said to Moses, to Aaron, and Miriam, 'Come out, you three, to the tabernacle of meeting.' So the three came out. Then the Lord came down in the pillar of cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both went forward. Then he said, 'Hear now my words, if there is a prophet among you. I, the Lord, make myself known to him in a vision. I speak to him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house. I speak with him face to face, even plainly, and not in dark sayings. And he sees the form of the Lord. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses?' So the anger of the Lord was aroused against him, and he departed. And when the cloud departed from the tabernacle, suddenly Miriam became leprous, as white as snow. Then Aaron turned toward Miriam, and there she was, a leper. So Aaron said to Moses, 'O my Lord, please do not lay this sin on us, in which we have done foolishly, and in which we have sinned.'" Here we read about Moses and his 2 siblings. Moses was a humble man, while his siblings chose to have a bad attitude. Miriam had the worst attitude, and this infected her brother Aaron. Here they are, a family who Moses thought he could count on and trust, going behind his back, criticizing him, and causing trouble among God's people. Often the things that we judge and criticize are not the problem at all. The problem is our attitudes. We've all seen attitudes destroy marriages, families, and friendships. Whenever you have an individual or a group of people with a bad attitude, trouble is bound to happen, and things will rapidly get negative. Through all of this, we need to remember that our attitude is always our choice. I'd like to share 2 more illustrations before I conclude. Dr. Viktor Frankl stood under the glaring lights of the Gestapo court in a Nazi concentration camp. Soldiers had taken away from Viktor every earthly possession, his clothes, his watch, even his wedding ring. And as Dr. Viktor Frankl stood there naked, his body shaved before those cruel men who tried to take every ounce of dignity from him. At that moment, Frankl said that he realized he was destitute except for one thing. He still had something that no one could take away from him, not even the Nazis. He still had the power to choose his own attitude, and he chose not to give that attitude to his enemies. He chose joy. He chose hope. He chose to be positive. Last, I want to share something that I found on the internet that I really liked. I think it's a great conclusion to the lesson. Today was the absolute worst day, and don't try to convince me that there's something good in every day. Because when you take a closer look, this world is a pretty evil place. Even if some goodness does shine through once in a while, satisfaction and happiness don't last. And it's not true that it's all in the mind and heart, because true happiness can only be attained if one's surroundings are good. It's not true that good exists. I'm sure you can agree that the reality creates my attitude. It's all beyond my control, and you'll never, in a million years, hear me say that today was a good day. Now let's read that from the bottom up. Today was a good day, and you'll never, in a million years, hear me say that it's all beyond my control. My attitude creates the reality. I'm sure you can agree that it's not true that good exists only if one's surroundings are good. True happiness can be obtained because it's all in the mind and heart. And it's not true that satisfaction and happiness don't last. Some goodness does shine through once in a while, even if the world is a pretty evil place. Because when you take a closer look, there's something good in every day. And don't try to convince me that today was the worst day ever. Whatever we're going through, whatever we're dealing with, whether we're dealing with someone who is frustrating or fighting with someone close to us, or just having a bad day, we need to remember that we can choose our attitudes. We can choose the mindset we have in life, and we can choose to be kind to those we love, even if they're frustrating. Thank you.